It's Friday. You got all three of us, and that means I go highest, Peter, you go middle, Aram, you go lowest, or you just don't do it at all. You just sit there and watch.
I'll do it with you, Jack.
3, 2, 1. Mailbag.
Mailbag.
Yeah, Aram sat there and smiled. Come on,
You gave
man.
me you gave me an out. I took it.
I did give
You
you an out.
can't give him an
It's
out.
so embarrassing, guys. I can't.
I can't sing on the
I'm too chill.
1200th mailbag we've ever done.
I'm too chill to do that. I'm sorry.
Understood. Yeah, no, your Celsius has to get your heart rate up because it rests at like 40. It's a Friday mailbag. Today is Friday, February 7th. It is the Friday before the Super Bowl. And Peter, tell us about our friends at MGM.
We are brought to you by the sportsbook born in Vegas, BetMGM. And folks, if you have not downloaded BetMGM yet, do it now if you want to sprinkle a little bit of dollars on that Super Bowl because you'll get a first bet offer up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first wager loses. Maybe Gatorade bath, coin toss, maybe you like one of the teams, any of the player props. Again, if you download BetMGM, use code JUSTBASEBALL, and your first pick loses, you'll get it back in bonus bets. But remember, must be 21 years or older. Terms and conditions apply. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Very excited for the Super Bowl, but more excited for this mailbag. How about that?
Yeah, should we get the Super Bowl questions out of the way right now?
No.
I think yes.
Super Bowl
We-
question, for the
Like-
our last
Hey,
question on the mailbag?
Who's winning? No. Like, who's winning the Super Bowl, Peter?
Chiefs. Chiefs and Chiefs big.
Who's
Who,
winning the
big?
Super Bowl, Aram?
I'm listening to Peter 100% on this front. He's given me all the pitches, all the stuff. I'm in on it. He's been when did you place your Chiefs like future? That was like probably week 10, week not like something like that.
2.5 units on the Chiefs at plus 440 like 2.5 months ago. And when I mean Chiefs big, I don't mean that they're going to blow them out. I just mean the amount of units deployed on the Chiefs will be low.
It's a big play.
Yeah, it's a big play.
I feel like every single time people start to doubt Mahomes a little bit, we do the same. Like, why did you ever doubt Mahomes? So I'm just gonna go with the best player on the field, and I'll take the coaching edge with the Chiefs. I'm not an NFL expert or anything like that, but yeah, I'll just go with the team that doesn't lose. That sounds easy to me.
So Andy Reid, good, but I know you're also not a Sirianni guy at all.
No, for whatever reason, that guy just pisses me off. It didn't help when he was going at his own fans, but there's something about him. Maybe if I ever talk to him, I never will. Maybe that'll change. You have a preconceived notion. Sometimes you're like, wait, I actually like that guy way more than I thought. I don't think that would happen with Sirianni. He just bothers me. I don't know what it is. So I would love to see them lose, to be honest.
It's like Rob Riggle and Step Brothers. It's like something about your face. I just want to sock you.
I'm telling you, man. Even the way he shakes the hands of the coaches after every game, it's just something way about the way he goes about his business.
I've got Not Like Us to cap Kendrick's performance. I don't have it as the first song. I have it as the last song.
And hopefully the last time we hear it for a while.
Did you see potentially that they, I guess, could get in trouble for playing that song? Like that could create a defamation lawsuit on a scale
On
that
Drake?
big? Yeah, I guess. So,
He's finding every angle I think he can.
He won a Grammy for it. I loved that narrative earlier this week. It's like, if you've ever thought maybe you're pushing the hate too far, Kendrick won a Grammy for hating someone.
Yeah, I need to
Five
step
of
my
them.
game up.
5 of them
Five
while,
Grammys for being a hater. That's
while
awesome.
wearing a Canadian suit to top it all off. Just a
Yeah.
little bit of note over there to Drake. I thought he was going to say something, but then I saw what he was wearing, and I'm like, that says all he
That's
needs
it.
to.
Speaking of Canada, should we talk about Pete Alonso? Sorry. Hate doing that to you guys. I would say we should talk about Pete Alonso, but that actually was a question on the mailbag, so we just made that question one. Get it out of the way. All right? Start the mailbag. Question one comes to us from Big Nate 2144 on X. With Pete Alonso finally being re-signed by the Mets, do you think it's possible for 4 teams out of the National League East to make the playoffs? I believe the Nationals are a sleeper to make the playoffs. Pete Alonso signed a 1+1. It's 30 in year one, player option, and then 24 in year two with the Mets. This is an all-time bag fumble, obviously. I'm not breaking any news here that Pete was looking at 150 million and ended up getting a max of 54, but maybe just 1 year for 30. Scott Boras again falls back on his tried and true 1+1 plan. Just kind of sucks that it came to this. It's the perfect fit. It was the only fit for Pete, I think, aside from Toronto, but even then, that probably meant that like they weren't confident in their pursuit of Vladdy during the course of the season or next year. It was just a little bit more convoluted in Toronto than it is in New York, where there was just a clear cut, okay, insert Pete back into this lineup. It just makes more sense.
It worked out nicely for the Mets too, right? I mean, they
It
they just kind
did.
of sat back and I I don't think you can, fully blame this on anybody. Like I think the Mets, like they knew what they wanted to spend and it didn't make too much sense for them to go above and beyond. And I think the way that we talked about it a few weeks ago, just the way that the first base market had settled in, and with a couple trades being made for teams to address their first base opening, and then a couple other signings, a couple other teams going maybe a little bit cheaper, all of a sudden
Yep.
that market thinned out a lot. And a lot of the leverage swung back to the Mets, and I think it just really made it hard for Alonso to be able to get the number that he wanted. And I think we also saw the teams are a little bit wary of a guy that's going to have to hit 40 home runs, which he does a lot of years, but hit 40 home runs and also, have the bat to ball and on base playing a little bit better than it did last year for him to be, worth that 30 million a year. That said, on the Alonso side, he's going to come back pissed off next year. And I think you're going to see him have a big year. And I think it's fine to bet on yourself at a high AAV for 1 year. I feel like this is one of those 1+1s. We talk about Bellinger and stuff. We're like, ooh, he's probably going to opt in. I feel confident about Alonso having a monster year and opting out. And worst case for the Mets, if he has a bad year or like a disappointing year and opts in, you still just retain one of your fan favorites. And even what's a down year for Pete Alonso at that point, anyways, too.
Right.
I'm totally with Aram on Pete Alonso having a big year next year. He needs to hit 27 home runs to tie Darryl Strawberry's Mets record for home runs, and I think he
That's
could
gonna be cool.
I think he could go above
I
that.
think
But
he blows by that.
yeah, this was a masterclass negotiations with Dave Stearns and Steve Cohen because the
Was
reason
it like okay? So the price tag says yes, but was it because clearly Pete got pissed for a moment, and 3 for 90 was on the table a couple of months ago, and then like this felt like a last resort, and I guarantee you Pete is not happy with how this shook out.
yeah, he's probably not happy with how it shook up, but he has to see a $30 million check that he's getting this year being more than basically any first baseman in Major League Baseball. And then he can go out on the market and potentially sign a bigger deal if he really truly bets on himself and he has a 40 plus home run year. But the reason I call it just such a masterclass is not only did they get him on a 1+1 deal for a power hitter of Pete Alonso's stature, but the Mets needed him a lot more than they let on. I
Yeah,
mean, look
that's
at
for
the
sure.
Mets lineup right now. Lindor is going to protect Soto, and then who? Well, you could say Mark Vientos, but puts a lot of pressure on Mark Vientos. You could
Yeah.
say Brandon Nimmo, but I wouldn't say that that's heavy protection for a guy like Juan Soto. Now you put in 40 home runs back in that lineup, elongate it, and we can't
Yeah.
forget that Pete Alonso had the biggest home run arguably in Mets history off of Devin Williams. So you know that in a big moment, you got another big bopper who can send all the runners home. So I think that the Mets lineup kind of really needed a guy like Pete
I agree.
Alonso, but they pretended like, yeah, we could take him, but they really needed him and they got him for a 1+1.
That's the crazy part is like I don't I was trying to think if they were, it was a game of chicken or, the ultimate leverage is actually being okay with somebody walking, right? And saying,
Yeah.
"Hey, we'd definitely be better with you, but we don't need you." And it almost felt like they believed that they didn't need him. I'm with you, Peter. If you look at that lineup, they needed another masher, especially because of you're hoping Vientos match, but there's some, yellow flags in the batted ball profile. I don't think it would shock anybody if there's some, adjustment periods through what is technically his sophomore season. And then, you look at Nemo being banged up and, how are his feet going to be? Like it could become very top heavy with just a couple
Yep.
guys very easily. And now you add a tried and true proven slugger who, even if it's not, again, an incredible walk here, he's going to hit you 30 and he's going to be productive. And,
Right.
again, we've seen him perform in big spots. So I was amazed at how willing the Mets were to potentially let him walk. And I think they actually were. I don't know why, but I think this ultimately makes the most sense for both parties, and it's a great deal for the Mets especially.
I thought they were operating like he was walking. I mean,
I
when they
think they
signed
might have been.
AJ Minter, like all the conversation around Minter was, "Oh no, Alonso," and then they signed somebody else, and it's like, "Oh no, Alonso." Like they were operating like they were not getting Pete Alonso back, and I think they saw this at that price point fall into their lap and say, "Okay, like here we go."
That's why this is a masterclass. I agree with you. I think they inherently knew that they need someone of the stature of Pete
I,
Alonso
I think they
because
knew that they had the final say in Pete.
yes, like could they be a great team without Pete Alonso? Of course. But
They
are
could
they
also be a
winning?
bad team. Yeah.
Yeah, are they winning the World Series? Are they going up against the Dodgers? Are they beating out the Phillies? Are they beating out the Braves with Pete Alonso? Because the rotation is good, it's not great, so you're relying on this offense. And without Pete Alonso, it's not as good as it could be with him. So just a masterclass by Cohen and Dave Sturts. Like if I'm a Mets fan right now, I feel
Oh,
like I'm in such a good spot because I have a GM who's smarter than basically every GM, and I have an owner who is richer than every GM, just working on a perfect team. Obviously, it's not perfect yet, but just the future and how these guys are operating, I'd be really excited.
yeah. Now, getting back to the question, does the NL East give us four postseason teams in 2025? My answer is no. They gave us three last year. Philly won the division, and Atlanta and the Mets were wild cards, but you got to factor in Arizona missed the playoffs. San Diego was the other wild card team. I'm not looking at the Central. Obviously, the Brewers and Cubs, like, could the Nats in a world be better than both the Brewers and the Cubs, or at least match them by win total? I don't know. I could somersault my way to seeing that a heck of a lot easier than I could somersault my way seeing them being better than Arizona. Like I see no world where Washington is better than Arizona. I'm already penciling in Arizona to the wild card, spot, and LA wins the division, and the NL West is at the very least giving us two teams.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the Giants too. Like the Giants are a lot better, than they were last year, and they still
Yeah.
won 80 games last year. You look at I mean, even the Reds, like I think I got a little bit more faith in them, and especially with the moves that they've made I want to
Really, you
say
think over Washington,
I like
Cincinnati?
I like the
I
Reds
do.
over Washington.
I do. I love where the Nationals are going, and I can understand why they're this exciting,
Yeah.
popular, emergent team pick. But you also have to look at, what the Reds have in terms of some proven talent, and then you look at the national side, and like, yes, there's a lot of really fun young talent, but I still think there's going to be a learning period for Dylan Cruz, who still hasn't fully settled in at the big league level. I think Wood could end up just making that leap and never have the adjustment period. That's fine. But then you look around, I just don't know if there's quite as much impact. And then on the mound, I think you can look at a lot more upside with the Reds as well. And then the bullpen, I think that's a big problem with the Nationals too. Like it's a good team. It's a good young team, but I do see them potentially blowing a lot of leads with that bullpen. And it's not like the rotation is completely, tried and proven. So I love where they're headed, but I think these other teams are more built for 162.
Yeah.
Because one of these teams is going to win the division. We're talking about the National League East, right? Whether it's the Braves or the Phillies, or the Mets, and then there's
I
going to be two
I
of
will
those teams, and then Arizona, and then that's it.
I will
Mhm.
say I do not think the Mets are. Uh, call me out if you think I'm I'm be
Hey,
if I'm
it's
exaggerating.
Friday. It's Friday.
It
Give
is
me a
Friday.
take. I'm here for it.
I don't see very many worlds where the Mets can win the National League East. I don't even know if that's hot or not, but I think Philly is marginally better,
Mm.
and I think Atlanta, like with the health that they're getting, and Strider back after what a month or so, and Acuna back after what 4 to 6 weeks. I saw Mark Bowman report. Like, I think those teams are running circles around what the Mets have right now, even with Juan Soto. Like, I really can't close my
So,
eyes and see the New York Mets winning the National League East.
so you mean like significantly better? Like,
Significant, not
yeah.
marginally.
So
Yeah,
I
good
didn't
call.
mean to correct. I didn't
Yeah,
want
no,
to do
you're
that on the
good.
show, but I just want to make
You're good.
sure. I just
Yeah,
want to make because
significantly better. Yeah,
I agree. And again, the Mets could, have a special year where you have Juan freaking Soto, if Lindor's playing at a, MVP finalist level, and then Pete Alonso has that walk year that we think he can have. I think you could definitely talk your way into this team being really good, but I think when you compare the pitching situation, it's not quite as exciting or impactful. I think they got good arms, but I don't think it's nearly the same as, especially what you got going in Philly.
yeah,
And then even Atlanta, if they're healthy, and I still don't think Atlanta's done, right? They traded, Braves fans are freaking out. They traded for Matt Olson, I think on March 13th or whatever.
yeah.
Anthopoulos loves to kind of let things fall into his lap, and they did it with Profar. I wouldn't be surprised if there's another move in there for the Braves to potentially address that staff a little bit more.
Also, even if there's zero, I'm fine with it. Like looking at the starting rotation with where it is right now and looking at the upper minors, backup plans that they have, like Elder, Smith Shaver, Waldger, all these guys exist and they're just hanging out in AAA right now. So yeah.
Chad Cool. Chad
Chad
Cool as
Cool.
well. Yeah.
Chad Cool, former Pirate love.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I could see a move for, another setup adjacent guy. Like I think they could use another seventh inning guy in that bullpen, but frankly, like I think they're close to being a finished product.
What if they just surprise everybody and go get Cease or King or something like that?
Yeah.
Like I could, nothing would shock me, man. I'm telling
Cease
you,
is a
it's,
Georgia boy too, I think.
yeah,
Cease
I
makes
think
sense.
so. So that would be interesting. But yeah, I think to answer the question though, it'd be pretty shocking if the National League, I could see it maybe in 2 years.
Yeah.
It could be the best division in baseball if things track the right way. But I think we're still like definitely a year early there.
Yeah.
For me, just to wrap this question up, answering the Phillies, Mets versus the Braves, I have something on the Braves later that I want to talk about. But I think the Mets can be better than the Braves. I think that we're expecting so many bounce backs from them. Again, I'll talk about that later. But the one thing that I really wanted to mention is I think Philly is like the team that's being kind of slept on throughout all of these great teams. Like the Phillies were one of the best teams in baseball last year, and then they added Jesus Luzardo. I think they should be the favorites to win this division. I think Bryce Harper is going to have a huge year. I think a lot of these players in the Phillies lineup are going to have big years, and then the bullpen is still very good. Like I think Philly should be the favorite here, and I think the Mets have a higher floor, I do think, than the Braves after getting Pete Alonso, but I think the Braves have a higher ceiling.
Well, and Philly, to your point, Philly had like three or four bats in that lineup that showed us the floor in
Yeah.
24, and they still won the division. Like
Yeah.
JT Realmuto pretty much showed us the floor. Castellanos showed us the floor. I think Stott showed us his floor.
Yeah.
Johan Rojas showed us the floor.
Yeah.
And the fact that half their lineup was like that. Alec Boehm was amazing in April. After that, he kind of showed us the floor of Alec Boehm for the final 5 months of the season. So we're talking about half the lineup being nowhere near the median expectation that you can set for those individuals, and they still win the division.
I think that
And
rotation is better than the Mariners. I think it's the best in baseball. I mean, of course,
I
the
don't hate that
Dodgers.
take.
They have like 30 guys.
Yeah.
They're all awesome.
But it depends who's healthy.
Exactly.
And like,
It's
yeah.
like if I'm going Wheeler, Nola, Sanchez, Suarez, Luzardo, are you kidding?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
I mean, that's
And-
a potential
and Andrew
ace
Painter.
level, and Andrew Painter coming up. Like, that's a potential ace talent every day.
Yeah.
Not saying
I
they're
mean,
all
that-
going to perform like aces, but them at their best can all perform like aces. And now you could say that about the Mariners, but you could also point to some home road splits with the Mariners. Like their true talent, are they better than the Phillies? I don't think so. I think I'm going with the Phillies as the best rotation in baseball.
I don't hate that. And then also, I think a really underrated addition is Kepler.
Yeah.
Is he going to move mountains for them? No, but I just think a pretty consistent bat, in the back half of that lineup that I do think is going to just be benefit from a change of scenery, getting out of Minnesota, but also that ballpark. I think the power is going to tick up. They're in a pretty damn good spot.
Great
Yeah.
spot.
I think so. All right, let's get to question 2 here. Question 2 comes from us, also from X. This is at 4M Opinions. Which team do you think is the most volatile heading into the 2025 season? Parentheses, biggest variance from their floor and ceiling as a team. I can throw you a bunch of team names that came to my mind, and you can validate or invalidate, but Aram, it looks like you want to hop in.
I have two obvious answers, and I know Peter, I think, has the exact two as well. I might be wrong, but I just, with the conversations we've had on the show the last few months,
Yeah.
I've got two, and I'm curious, but the
So,
Braves
let's start.
are one.
Oh,
Okay.
so we do have the same two because I assume the American League team that we're all talking about is the Texas Rangers.
Yeah.
I mean, they could win
Yeah.
100 games or like win 70
Correct.
games.
Correct.
If DeGrom, if Wyatt Langford, we've talked about it like 400 times. So you're
It's
going
Braves
with the
Rangers for me. I knew you'd have the same two.
Braves Rangers
I knew it.
Wow.
So
Should I
I
explain the Braves, or do you want you can run with it? You teased it already, and then I can try to fill in any blanks.
I'm just looking at this team, and what really spawned this was the conversation about Ronald Acuna Jr. coming off the torn ACL.
Mm-hmm.
And then I really start to look, and I'm like, okay, I love Michael Harris. But is he going to stay healthy all year? Like, we could just go through each one of their teams. You could go through the rotation. I'll go through the lineup.
Yeah,
Like, Jurickson Profar. You talked about the swing changes.
I
thought that
believe
was
in him.
excellent. I believe in him too, but just because we believe in him doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to happen, right? It's still up in the air what Jurickson Profar is going to do. We love Austin Riley. I think Austin Riley is going to be very good. I don't really have any questions about him. I don't really have any questions about Matt Olson staying on the field, but Matt Olson took a dive last year and he was better in the second half. I expect him to be better, but it's still up in the air. Marcell Ozuna is 34 years old. Ozzy Albies has dealt with injuries. Sean Murphy is now 30 years old and coming off a down year. Kelnick and Arcia, what are they going to give us? And then you could go through the rotation and we could talk about an old Chris Sale, but I'll hand it off to you.
Yeah, no, to say if you hit the parlay of like all these guys playing to not even the best of their ability, the 80th percentile ability, this is one of the best teams in baseball without a doubt. But the question, highlighted the word volatility, and I don't know if there's a team that embodies volatility more than the Atlanta Braves, right? You either have one of the best talents in Major League Baseball available in a Ronald Acuna Jr., or you don't. And it's been kind of a coin flip, with that over the last few years. And you alluded to, I think like Mike Harris is a safer bet because you're always going to get the great defense. And, I think with Riley, even when he's down, you have a decent year from him, right? And same with Matt Olson. But I agree, it can thin out quickly. Like you're hoping that Murphy's oblique was the reason why he wasn't performing, and I believe that. But we say that about six guys. You want them all to have it go right next year, but that's like hitting a parlay, right? And then on the pitching side, like I plenty of talent there. I still think they need to address with another arm. Chris Sale, we saw kind of run out of gas at the end of the year. You really hope that was just him running out of gas and not something that carries over into his age 36 season. But would that shock you given his history and how many innings he threw? Reynaldo Lopez, every expected stat has him, probably upping his ERA by at least a run. And even if you don't subscribe to that, he was banged up a little bit too. Schwellenbach, I got no concerns about it. And I think that guy takes a leap and really helps them. But then the 4-5 spots in the rotation too are kind of a question as well. So no questions about the bullpen. That helps a lot. But you also have Strider as well. Like, what does he look like when he comes back? When exactly is he going to come back? I don't know if that's been announced necessarily yet, but
so that
helps. Sorry, what was that?
He's going to miss about a month.
Yeah. So, then they're going to be careful. So that helps. Like, I love the idea of Sale, Reynaldo, Schwellenbach, and Strider. But, if Strider's taking some time to get back, Sale doesn't look like he's 100%. Like, there's a lot of things that can go either way. And I think more things are going to go right than wrong based on the age of a lot of the guys that we're talking about injuries with, especially on the hitting side. And just the fact that Spencer Strider's a freak and probably will be fine and come back. But there's a lot of ifs with this team, and probably more than you generally like to see.
Yeah. And we could even keep going into their bullpen. Russell Iglesias is going to be 35 years old, and we saw him slow down a little bit at the end, right? Joe Jimenez, who has been so big for them, is coming off knee surgery. AJ Minter is gone. And then it's Pierce Johnson, who's 34 years old, right? They have other good arms. I'm sure they'll, form a good bullpen, but there are also still question marks throughout their entire roster, their offense, their starting pitching staff, and their bullpen. So, yeah, they were a name that I wrote down as probably the most volatile team in the National League. But we're also talking about the downside of the Atlanta Braves. Like, if these things all go well.
Yeah, we know what the upside of the Atlanta Braves looks like because we see it on paper. Like, on paper is for us to dream, and that's what the Braves are. Give me the Texas pitch now.
Well, the Texas pitch, it's. I mean, yeah, we could give you the Texas pitch pretty easily. Like, you look at their rotation and you see a Jacob deGrom. Is he giving you 25 starts? Is he giving you 30 starts? Or is he giving you 7? Like Tyler Mahle, is he giving you 25 starts or is he giving you 7? Right? Nathan Eovaldi has been great to TJ guy. One of those stories that, people talk about, well, if Nathan Eovaldi could do it, then other pitchers could do it. But is Nathan Eovaldi going to do it again? So those are their 3 pitchers that I'm looking at. And then in a bullpen, they just lost Kirby Yates. Go look at that bullpen right now. It's good, not great. And then the offense, it's like Wyatt Langford could be the MVP. Or he could be pretty good, right? There's so many hitters throughout
Josh
the lineup.
Young is always hurt.
Corey
Seager.
Corey Seager's been hurt. Is
volatile. Yeah.
Demian's coming off a down year.
Berger is, he's been available, the last couple of years, but he comes with a little volatility too, right? Where even when he's available, the first half was really rough from him. The second half, he was like the best power hitter in the world, but that is volatility by definition. Adolis Garcia looked like a completely different hitter last
Who
year.
is
What's he
Adolis
going to look like?
Garcia? I have no idea who Adolis Garcia is going into 25.
Jonah Heim, like it was a disappointing year from him. And I know they got Higashioka, but that also was a kind of best stretch of Higashioka's career. Josh Smith, really good in the first half, slowed down. Ezekiel Duran, like what is he? There's a lot of I think, what are you getting here in this lineup for sure. And again, I think you can talk yourself into the positive side very easily. Semien is the opposite of volatile, so it's nice to have that. I feel very confident that Langford takes that leap. But, Corey Seager, again, is just continue to miss some time. And I think Josh Young is another big concern there, too, from a health perspective. And Carter with the back thing, like, it could go either way. But then on the positive end, we've seen flashes of Josh Young looking like a very, very good third baseman, borderline all-star caliber third baseman. We've seen Evan Carter look like one of the more exciting young players in the game. And that aspect, if those guys are right, like you're also really feeling good about your lineup. And if you get 150 out of Corey Seager, he could be an MVP candidate. So I love the addition of Jock. That helps a lot too. And I think that did help trim some of the volatility there. But the pitching, for sure. When you have Mr. Volatile and Jacob deGrom, where if he's available, he's the best pitcher in the game potentially. If he's not available, he's not available. That's a big aspect of it. But there's also, when you look at the rotation right now, there's a lot of reliance still, on paper at least, for deGrom to be available and good.
For sure.
If he's not available and good, even if the other guys are, like I don't know how I feel about that rotation.
Yeah.
Cody Bradford might just have to take over the whole thing.
Yeah.
Which
Highest
I believe
floor
he can.
ever, according to Peter. Cody
which I believe he can, which I want to be clear.
He's your new Quantrill. Like, I mean, Quantrill's still Quantrill, but like Cody Bradford is approaching Quantrill territory for you.
I just fall in love with these guys who throw like 92, who the books price them at like plus 140 to do anything, and then they hit. And I watch them pitch, and I'm like, he's getting outs.
Yeah.
That's why Cody Bradford.
Got you. I have two other teams that jump to mind. Yeah.
Oh, no, you can continue on this question. I have a quick side question off this question, so I'll save that for the end.
Okay. The two teams that came to mind for me, National League was San Diego. We talk about how top heavy they are, and I feel like we've spent a lot of time talking about the negative of San Diego so far this year. We also have to remember that they still have Manny Machado and Xander Bogaerts and Fernando Tatis Jr., and they still have Darvish and Cease and King as it stands
Jackson
right now.
Merrill.
Jackson Merrill. Like, we're also a Tatis injury or a King injury away from, like, what is this team? They're bare bones. They've got nothing going on here.
I mean, Luis Arias could hit 350 and be valuable, or he could hit 314 and put up one win. That's also something.
Yeah.
I mean, he did do that.
Yeah. My team in the American League was Kansas City. Kansas City is a Bobby Witt Jr. injury or slump away from like 72 wins.
The offense,
I mean,
you're
like,
right.
Who is Kansas City last year if Bobby Witt is not a 10-win player?
Yeah. It almost makes me feel like we talk about WAR all the time. Like, how is his WAR not 20? Like, there's on that team, I feel like there's no better example. I'm with you on that. And actually, kind of to that point, I was thinking about, I'm sorry, Peter, but the Yankees. I don't think they're as volatile as some of these other teams. But if Aaron Judge goes down,
I mean, yeah, dude.
It's a lot of names, but like it's not a lot of guys. Like I don't know if I could confidently pick who the best hitter would be in that lineup if Aaron Judge goes down. Is it
like who you circling? Jazz?
Is it Jazz? Is it Goldschmidt on a bounce back at 37? Is it
Bellinger?
Giancarlo Stanton pretending it's the playoffs? I don't know. And then on the pitching side, like Cole, I'll believe in him until he's not on the mound anymore, and he looked great in the postseason. But he, it's coming off of a little bit of a thing. And if you look at the stuff, like it wasn't quite what it used to be. That guy will just execute his way to success forever. But Rodon is also the definition of volatility. Luis Gil, we'll see. Like I do think there's some interesting wrinkles with them. I think the Yankees hedge it with the ridiculous bullpen as they typically do, and I think the lineup is more balanced than we've seen maybe even in recent years. But Jazz is hurt all the time. There's some older guys, and it's going to be interesting. What do you get from Dominguez? I think there's a lot of questions still to be answered there with the Yankees. So I think they're a sneaky, volatile team as well.
You're 100% correct. And I was, after Jack and I finished an episode, I was trying to convince him why I should take the Yankees under 93.5 wins. I'm like, I see this. Like, we're one Aaron Judge injury away from this offense being not great. I love Luis Gil. It was so much fun watching him pitch last year. But it came out of nowhere. I mean, he's always had good stuff, but it was
He
like
still walks 4.3 per nine.
Yeah,
Like,
he could
exactly.
also make you go gray this year.
This year.
That's also in his game.
And Clark Schmidt, like, we're watching him face good teams in the playoffs, and it's like, please get him off the mound. Like, is that your 5? And then, I still love Fried, but Cole is also 34, 35 years old. I couldn't agree with you guys more. When we talk about win totals in the betting previews, like, I'll have a pitch about the Yankees, so I'll save that for then. But I agree with you.
What was your question off of the question?
Who is the team that is going to win the amount of games? Like, who's the team that the best? And I'll give you an example. Like, I know the Mariners are going to win 84 games next year.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, the teams where it's like they're so volatile, I know they're going to do that. They're not going to win more than 86, and they're not going to lose more than 82. They're just going to win 84.
Yeah, so I know the Rockies are going to win 63.
That's a good one. That's a good one, too.
I know the Cubs are going to win 85.
Really?
Like, they've built a roster.
I think they've got a little bit more upside now.
I think they have some downside, too.
Yeah.
I look at that rotation, man. Like, okay, say Shota's second half looks like that. Shota's second half turns into Shota's 25. Okay? Steele, like, at the end of the day, it is 91, 92, and I understand it's got incredibly unique characteristics, but they don't have that guy every fifth day that I look at, and I'm going to say, you're going to give me 7 innings of 2-run ball, and I'm going to survive. Like, I just don't think they have that in their rotation right now. And Tyone, like, I cannot convince myself that Tyone is going to be as reliable as he was in 24. Like, there's a lot that needs to go right for them to exceed my expectations, but I also think they've built out such a high floor for themselves with so much ammo in that lineup. Like, they're deep. I know they can be productive every night. I just don't know if they can be like 92 win team good.
No, you kind of convinced me, because you're right. They're gonna be between 81 to 87. I'm pretty sure, and like there's teams who have
Dakota
deltas.
sees them as a 90 win team. I don't know.
I don't see that. A team, I think, with a huge delta of, like, they could be really, really good or really, really bad. Imagine if the Twins stay healthy. Like, imagine if that Twins lineup, all of them stay healthy, and like
I'm
Pablo
done
Lopez
imagining
and Joe
that.
Ryan are great.
Opting out. I'm opting out of the Twins conversation.
Guys, is it the time of the year where we start to say, Angels aren't that bad?
Angels kind of look okay on paper.
You know what the craziest part about the Twins is? I think their best, like, internal reinforcement, Emmanuel Rodriguez, who could help catapult them, and I'm going to talk about him actually in another question, also hurt all the time. Walker Jenkins has been hurt through a lot of his minor league career already. Like, their reinforcements that are on the way are also guys that are hurt and then, like, in and out of the lineup. It's like, I don't understand. They're going to be like 35 deep on the active roster, just like funneling guys in and out, in and out.
Imagine if they're healthy. Just saying.
Yeah.
No, it's great.
But Arm, who's the team that you just know is going to do what you think?
I was going to say Twins win 82, but no. Man, I feel really confident about the Phillies being in the like 90 range. But to say any team's going to win 90 plus games is crazy.
No, but
I feel really confident that the D-backs are going to be at least in the upper 80s, pushing to 90. I think they might be better than that. But, like, you saw what they did, 2 years ago, and they got to the World Series and won. I think it was 86 or 87 then. But then they win 89 this past year, and it was like not even their best year, especially with the first half struggles. I just feel so confident in that team at least winning 88, 89, and I think they're going to push further than that. But that's one that the team only got better, and it's just too balanced across the board. The pitching is deep now. I think that's a team you just look at it and, like, even if they're frustrating, which I thought they were at points last year, they're going to still somehow win 87, 88 games at least.
Yeah, I agree with you.
All right, we're going to jump to the next question in a moment. Before that, we will take a quick break. Instagram question now. This one
Mm.
from at B Gianascoli on Instagram. Good Italian name. Which young player do you see taking the biggest jump to superstardom this season? My personal pick would be James Wood. Would love your guys' thoughts. I'm sure Aram agrees with the James Wood
Yeah.
pick because we already saw it. The names that jump to my mind, and we've documented them this week actually. Jackson Chorio, I think he's star already. I think he could make that superstar jump that we're asking for. Wyatt Langford, same deal. The other one, Michael Harris hasn't become a
Mhm.
superstar yet. I think a healthy Michael Harris, if he's a 6.5 win player, he's playing some of the best defense that we've got in Major League Baseball in center field. And he's this power threat that's slapping the ball around the ballpark at the same time in the leadoff spots for maybe the second best team in baseball.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard not to go with that one. I have one. Arm, you want to go first?
No, you go ahead and I can fill in wherever.
So I had Wyatt Langford written down.
Yeah,
I
of
had
course.
Jackson Chorio written down. I had James Wood written down. But one sneaky one, I think Patrick Bailey is going to take a leap to potentially being the best catcher in baseball next year.
Ooh.
Yeah. Because
What does that look like? A 105 WRC plus?
Yeah,
so
that's the thing. Is if it's 105, he's probably
He
grading out
is.
from a
Yeah.
WAR perspective as the best catcher in baseball.
so let me explain. So through 59 games last year to start the season, he had a 3.2 FWAR to start the year. That was 11th in Major League Baseball. No other catcher had above a 3.0. At that point, he had a 121 WRC plus. Then in August, he goes on the IL with an oblique issue and just really ended the season poorly. But when we look at his pre All Star numbers, 283, 354, 430 slash line for a 784 OPS. He had 7 home runs. He only hit one more in the second half. Hits the ball really hard, switch hitter, keeps the ball off the ground. And then you factor in the best defense in the sport. Like, I think it's one of those years where, Yadier Molina is like by far the best defensive catcher in baseball. And then he has those years where he's a 110, 115 WRC plus guy. I think that's what Patrick Bailey is going to do. I think we're going to look at the catcher leaderboards after the season and say, Pat Bailey put up a 7.5 win season, even though he only had a 120 WRC plus. Yes, the
Oh,
defense is that good. And I think the bat will be 10 to 20% above league average if he's able to play an entire season. He's just 25 years old. I think he's going to be a monster.
it is crazy. If you look at the projections, I think the projections have him at a 90 WRC plus and a 5.1 F4, which would put him from that just perspective as one of the best catchers in Major League Baseball. The other interesting aspect is I don't know if he said it on our show or if he said it in another interview, but I remember him talking about it. And I know he had a specific injury to circle this past year, but he talked about it after his rookie season too, where he hit that wall in the second half. And I mean, it's a grind to catch. And Pat Bailey's a guy that, to get the value, you want him to be catching as much as possible because he's a defensive wizard. And it just seems like he has struggled to stay fully feeling like himself through the duration of the season. I think we talked about it too on the show in one of the episodes this offseason about how insane his first and second half splits are in his career so far. That's something that, again, injuries have maybe played a little bit of a part into it, and also just conditioning and getting himself into a spot where you just learn how to maintain your body more at the big league level. You have more resources, learn how to use them more. Maybe that helps him extend into, August, September. First half of the season in his career, he has a 121 WRC plus. Second half of the season in his career, he has a 35 WRC plus. That's the difference in slash line for those who don't love the plus numbers. 286, 343, 454 versus 179, 238, 238. So he doesn't even need to be good in the second half. He just needs to not fully fall off a cliff. And to Peter's point, he was a 4.3 F4 player last year, I think. Could easily push towards 6. So it's not going to be a flashy star, but
Yeah.
from the value perspective, I actually think that's a good answer.
Yeah. Arm, you have anybody else?
Pete Crow Armstrong for me.
Mm.
It could go any which way because he's very aggressive. And I think the floor is high because of the fact that he's such a good defender. But there's a guy that elevates so well and can hit 20 to 25 home runs. We saw him settle in more and more with the bat, and the numbers got better and better and better as the season progressed. He is a wizard defensively as well. And I think he could steal in a full season. He got more comfortable and more comfortable. He was almost perfect. I think the first time he got thrown out was actually like a messed up play or some miscommunication. He got backpicked. Like he could steal 50 bags and he can hit 20 home runs and he could be one of the best center fielders in Major League Baseball. So I do think that's a guy that could end up making that leap. And the batted ball data, like he hits the ball hard. So I could see him pushing to that 25 home run range. And if he's putting up Jackson Merrill type of offensive numbers, which is a very lofty goal with his defense as well, like that's a star. The other that I think it's a little bit more of a squint and a little bit more offensive driven is a Lawrence Butler. I mean, we saw what he did in the second half, but his numbers, like to really dive into it. And again, that was one of my favorite breakdowns I did. To have a tangible swing adjustment and a significant adjustment, and then to go from struggling in AAA against fastballs and then to be one of the best hitters in Major League Baseball over your final 70 plus games.
Yeah.
I think there's a very real scenario where we see him just build on that and continue to be just one of the better mashers, young mashers in the game. Again, I think that one requires a little bit more squinting and, a lot more offensive output, but it wouldn't shock me with his talent.
Yeah. I've got one that requires a lot of squinting, and I don't think it's superstar, but I'm just thinking like he could remind everybody that he is a star in the making. Like I don't want people to forget how good Matt McClain's 2023
I do
was.
like that answer.
Like
Yeah.
McClain could bounce back in a healthy 25, and if he
Be an
plays
all-star.
140, 150 games, he could be an all-star and a five-win player playing a couple of different positions and be this multifaceted offensive piece who OPS'd about what 860, I think, in
Yeah.
Cincinnati in his rookie year, maybe
And
even
played good
higher than
short.
that.
And played good short and they could
Yeah,
steal
dude.
bags. Like, yeah, I love that answer. And I think, superstar, no, but
No, but
young
star.
star, absolutely.
Yeah,
Quick
yeah.
question for both of you, because you're both PCA enjoyers and you're both Michael Harris enjoyers. I need you to project. I need you to put on a Galaxy Brain aluminum foil hat for me for a second. Not really conspiracy, just projecting long term. Who has the best peak season between PCA and Michael Harris?
Peak is PCA.
Really?
Harris will be better year over year.
So you think like PCA's best year will be better than Michael Harris's best year, but Michael Harris will
I
have a
do.
longer and better career?
I do. Yes.
Arm, are you aligned there?
I think Michael Harris, if everything goes right, can have a better season because he hits the ball harder and he hits the ball more consistently. So I'd actually go Mike Harris. Dude, Mike Harris ran a 90th percentile exit velocity last year of 108.6 miles per hour. That puts him in like the 30 to 40 home run territory type of guys. The problem is he always puts the ball on the ground. And I don't know if that's something that he'll end up, fully rectifying, but he puts the bat on ball a little bit more consistently. Like if he's able to convert that raw, it's like that's plus raw power, which is crazy out of him. Like he could end up converting that into, a monstrous season. I don't know if he does it or not. I think PCA's swing is more grooved to, get hot and hit 30 if
So
everything goes right.
That's my point. Like you were saying, PCA is so geared to lift. Wrigley wind blowing out summer, like he could go
just
three
have a
months and
crazy
he could hit
stretch.
25 homers across 3 months.
And Jack, to further your point, Michael Harris ain't stealing 50 bags
That's
like
the other
PCA could.
Right.
And peak defensive value, could PCA also be the peak
It's
better
comparable.
defender?
It's probably comparable.
That's what I
Yeah,
thought.
that's a
Isn't
really
that an
tough
interesting question?
I'm starting to lose faith in Mike Harris being able to elevate, and that's fine. Like if he doesn't elevate, he's gonna always hit the ball hard and just be a high BABIP guy and get hit enough home runs. Maybe there's a little bit more confidence that PCA can become a bit more well-rounded of a hitter, and already has again the angles to hit a home run, so or hit a lot of home runs. So that is tough. I'll side with the batted ball data of Mike Harris and hoping it clicks, but I could see either or.
Gotcha.
Nice. I thought
All
that
right.
was a fun one.
Let's jump to, maybe the pitcher version of this question. And I love this. This is from @Skylar Clifton on X. Who is on your Mount Stuffmore? not best pitchers, just favorite guys to watch because of their filthy repertoire. And
Mm.
this could turn into guys naming dudes, but for the sake of, like Mount Rushmore, Mount Stuffmore, I picked four. I've got two relievers and I've got two starters.
I have a
Did you guys
question
go all
before
starters?
I have a
Yeah.
question before we begin. I took it as right now. Did you guys take it as all time?
No, right
No, right
now.
now.
Right now. Okay, perfect. I just wanted to make sure.
I
Yeah.
got one guy, and he's been my favorite since the minor leagues to just dial up video on, and I don't need any more.
Huh.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right, Jeremiah Estrada.
Huh.
I'm telling you, I don't think he gets enough attention for how outrageous his stuff is, because it's three pitches that are all insanely bizarre in how they work off each other. So his fastball average is 97 miles per hour, but this dude gets. So I always talk about like cut ride fastballs, and that's going to be, usually cut ride fastball is going to, the guy just naturally cuts it, but it stays up and it'll get maybe 13, 14 inches of vert, but no horizontal. So that ride plays up. Jeremiah Estrada gets 19 and a half inches of vert and only 1.5 inches of horizontal. So it's like, it looks like it's cutting, but it's also riding like a true, just like vert fastball. So that already is outrageous. Then he's throwing it at 97, and it's a slightly above average extension. That fastball, I think, is one of the best fastballs in Major League Baseball. And then you have a slider that is ridiculous off of that. Tunnels like a nightmare. And then he has a splitter that averages 11 inches or 10 inches of vertical separation, 14 miles per hour in velocity separation, and then another 10 inches of horizontal separation. That is, I think, as disgusting of like a dichotomy between fastball and splitter. Like that might be the closest thing to what Sasaki's going to be bringing over. So, and with Sasaki, it's more just the splitter being way over here and the fastball just being hard. I think the arsenal that he brings to the table is up there with just about anybody, and that's why opponents hit 188 against him last year.
So you have nobody else. It was just that guy, and that's it.
I'll pull a couple others, but that's clear cut for me, like my favorite.
For
Cool.
me, I have a reliever that I think has better stuff than Jeremiah Estrada, but I mean that was a great pitch. I mean the different ways that those balls are moving is incredible, but I think Yohan Duran is the best stuff of any
Yeah.
reliever.
Yeah.
I mean, we're looking at a guy who's averaging 101 miles an hour with his fastball, and then he just throws this 97 mile an hour splinker. I mean, what the hell is even that? And then you're getting used to 101 versus 96, and then it's an 86 mile an hour curveball that opponents hit 151 against and whiffed at a 47% rate. Like he's also a three pitch guy with a 197 mile an hour splinker, 86 mile an hour curveball. Yeah, he's number one for me.
See,
Sneaky also, and I'm sure you're going to mention him, but Ryan Helsley, phenomenal. The only thing, these two pitch guys, I just tried to stay away from with the relievers, but I'm like, Yohan Duran could be a two pitch guy, but he decides to throw a curveball and he's just disgusting.
he could probably be a one pitch guy, dude. Like,
Yeah.
seeing 97 next to splitter, like it's like I'm staring at it right now. It's just like breaking my brain.
Yeah.
But the other crazy part is he like lands that pitch for a strike, like pretty consistently. It is 74% strike rate on the splitter, the splinker really. I mean, that's just outrageous stuff. Like obviously Paul Skeens would be the most fun answer because of what he can
Right.
do on the topic of splinkers. But like Paul Skeens is going to be just about everybody's answer. Duran, yeah, when you're doing that, and then you also got 102, in the tank, he's got to be up there, if not the most ridiculous pitcher.
Who are your relievers, Jack?
So my two relievers, eh, biased, but Ryan Walker, just the way that everything
I
dips
fucking
and
love
darts.
Ryan Walker.
I
I'm
love
so
watching him.
okay with that answer.
I watch him and he breaks my brain. It's like, how can any hitter deal with this? Because he's throwing from left field and then it's like 95 somehow from
Yeah.
there. And then it's like this insane sweeper off of that. My brain doesn't compute how hitters can compete with that.
Yeah.
And then the other guy, the carnival game, or like you have it in bars sometimes. I think it was at Harry's in Syracuse, the punching bag that you just like
Oh,
hit as
yeah.
hard as you can, and you just like you're in awe at the score.
Mhm.
Ben Joyce makes that list because I feel like every time he throws a baseball, I'm watching somebody like punch that bag harder than I could ever dream of doing it. I'm like, how hard are you going to throw this one? I'm glued to him every time he throws a fastball.
He's like a heavyweight boxer. I mean, 106 is 106. Like,
Yeah, like
could be the end of conversation. It's
and
106.
I understand if he's a one-trick pony. I get it. But that trick is like you do
106.
something
Yeah,
nobody else in the world can do, and I love watching you do that one thing.
absolutely. I'm with that one.
Kirkering as well. That
Yeah,
slider. Like I
yeah,
know it's just one pitch specifically there, but I could watch that slider all day.
yeah.
Like that's pretty much like an 80 grade pitch. And then I, this is a little bit different because it's not really just how the pitches move, but I think it's. I was talking about this today partly because I actually saw him at the park today, and holy crap, is he tall? Aroldis Chapman.
Yeah,
Um,
dude.
well, also, watching him get his work in, it's all like coiling
Oh,
work and like he's on the turf field. Just the way his body moves is just ridiculous. And
also
it
the way
makes
he's
sense that he's able
designed,
to.
he's physically designed to throw 105 miles an hour because
Well,
like he's all legs and like it's insane. His
but to
arms.
be that long and then be able to coil the way that he does and push from there, like, and I see how he can do it now. Literally watching him get his work in, it's outrageous the stuff that he does. But when we were in Pittsburgh for the stadium tour and he was warming up in the bullpen, we were able to look like straight down. And I'm just watching the way that he loads into that back leg and explodes. I was talking about it today. I would pay a lot of money to put a metal bat in his hand, have him load into that back hip, and just take the biggest swing he possibly could until he goes like perfect, perfect. I legitimately think he could hit a ball 480 feet.
Yeah, he probably
He's
could.
got to be one of the most explosive athletes we've ever seen.
So we've gone over a lot of cool answers. How about the obvious answers? Because I had three pretty obvious answers on my Mount Stuffmore. I had Skeens. I
Yeah,
had
of course.
Scooble. I think Scooble is disgusting. I know that he gets, a lot of praise for his command, but still, even if he didn't have command, that guy would be unbelievable because it's
Snell.
still.
Snell.
And Snell was my third. Like, Snell, he gets a lot of shit for the walks, but to be that good when you're walking that many guys, like this stuff is unbelievable. Dylan Cease,
Yeah.
this stuff
Trinan.
is unbelievable. But my official Mount Stuffmore was Paul Skeens, Tarek Skubal, Blake Snell, and Yohan Duran.
So
That's just about that's almost undisputable in a lot of ways. Glass now I think could be in there as well.
yeah. Mine tailored to me is Ryan Walker, Ben Joyce, and the two starters I had. Jared Jones watching the fastball jump out of his hand is like
Pretty
you
cool.
you shouldn't be able to do that from that frame, but he does that.
He
And
looks like he gets the most vert on his fastball in Major League Baseball. Like just
yeah,
watching the Pirates broadcast, like you can see the
take it off,
ride
man.
in
Like,
person.
dude, it's crazy to watch. And then this is the year it all clicks for Mackenzie Gore. I'm
No
married to
way.
it. I'm married to it. I love watching that guy pitch.
He's on
You
your
and his
Mount
family.
Stuffmore, like more than
I
Scooble.
think so.
It's Jack and
Well, no, not more than Scooble and Skeens. I was just saying, like, guys that I love watching because I'm like, you're freaking nasty.
Yeah.
Gore's
Jack
on
and the
my
Gore
stuff.
family. That's
I'm obsessed, man. This is the year.
all right.
Promise.
So who's your official Mount Stuffmore arm?
I think Mason Miller for me, just also because the story and that's like a personal, just like following through the fall league, minor leagues, like and then up to the show, and just also when talk about vert and velocity, most guys that get to that velocity, the vert just naturally like cannot carry to that degree, and he somehow makes that happen. I'm still keeping Jeremiah Estrada on there.
Yeah.
Blake Snell, Paul Skeens.
Yeah.
Um, you know what's funny? And every time people ask me about Mount Rushmore, I forget how many people are on Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, there's four of them.
There's four, so I'm tapped out. That's
Yeah,
it.
you're good.
Sneaky
You're good.
Stuffmore guy, Bryce Miller. And the only reason I didn't actually
Just
include him on
because
mine,
he's so talented.
he throws 7 pitches, and he just picked up a splitter last year for fun.
Also,
And then
like,
opponents hit 148 against it.
if we're playing that game, I think Darvish should be considered.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, he should. Yamamoto is going to be up there. He's got 5 or 6 pitches too.
Yeah, dude. It's all crazy. All right, let's jump to the next one. I think this one's going to be pretty quick. This is from at O'Geary29 on Instagram. Is there any team that made the playoffs last year that you guys think will not make it this year? No, Peter's pretty adamant with
Oh,
his answer.
I just remember Valente Bellozo also on my stuff more.
Beozo, yep.
Yeah.
I mean, you want me to give my answer?
I think I know it.
I'm so out on the Orioles. I don't care.
Yeah.
Um, I don't care. I'm so disappointed of what they've done with this rotation. Zach Eflin, I like. Grayson Rodriguez could take that next step. But a 41-year-old Charlie Morton, Dean Kramer, Tomoyuki Sagano, are we serious? And then the lineup. Like you went cheaper for Tyler O'Neill instead of Anthony Santander. And then Anthony Santander wasn't even that much more expensive. So you bet on kind of the upside of Tyler O'Neill. And I love Tyler O'Neill because I see the upside, but I also see the downside here, right? Like I like Colton Cowser. I like obviously Gunner, love Gunner. But then it's like, what is Adley going to do? What is this first base tandem? Is Ryan O'Hearn going to be this good again? Pairing with Ryan Mountcastle? Like there have been some injuries. How good is Cedric Mullins? Does Jackson Holiday finally take a step? So there's question marks in the offense. There's a million question marks in the rotation. And then the bullpen, even like Yenier Cano took a step back last year. Like Sir Anthony Dominguez is so inconsistent. He's great for a stretch, and then he's not for another stretch. And then like Kittredge is 35, and yeah, he can lock down the seventh. But and then Felix Bautista is coming back from TJ. Like there's so much up in the air, and in American League East, where the Yankees are going to be very good, the Red Sox I think are going to be
They're gonna
good.
be good.
I think the Blue Jays are going to be better, and I think the Rays are going to be better. And with only so many spots, like I think the Orioles are going to end up missing the playoffs.
The only transaction so far this offseason that I look at and say, yeah, I objectively like it was Gary Sanchez.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
That was just like a nice pickup. Makes sense, until Basayo's ready, figure it out. I, I, and it's funny because they didn't spend the big deal besides Tyler O'Neill.
Yeah.
But if you start to add together all the small deals, it turns into a pretty big number. And I don't like any of them. And I understand that you have to feel like you have to spread it out a little bit if you have a bunch of holes. I didn't think they had a bunch of holes. I think they could have went a little bit higher quality instead of the quantity thing and been in a good spot. I mean, once you combine Shigano and Morton, and you even gave $4 million real to Ramon Laureano, like that turns into what? $30 million, something close to that. I don't really get it from that perspective, and I would have rather gone for more quality over quantity. But here we are. It's still a very talented team. And I think, if Tyler O'Neill can match what he did for most of last year, that absolutely helps. And the young players just continuing to hopefully get better, and Adley, quote unquote, bouncing back, even though it wasn't a bad year. But I mean, the pitching staff, I still think is a lot of questions. Like I get depth wise, it's fine. And that's fine. Like, I don't think it's going to be a disaster, but who's going to be the guy when you are going through a tough stretch? I always like aces are the like losing streak killers as well, right? Because you can't score a run. It's been the offense has been struggling for a week and a half, and then you get your ace on the mound who puts up zeros, and you're like, okay, we only need 2 runs to win today. Who is that guy? Maybe it's Grayson. They really need Grayson to be that guy next year, and he's battled health issues and and some fastball quality concerns. Like I can't talk myself into really anybody else being that guy in the rotation.
And they lost that guy. I mean, Corbin Burns,
Corbin Burns
2.92
was that
ERA,
guy.
194 innings that they're not going to have. Like Tyler O'Neill might be a good player. I don't think he's hitting 44 jacks like Santander did, especially with that left field and in Camden Yards. Are they bringing it in a little bit? I saw
Yeah, they brought it in.
They brought it in still. I mean, it's still far. Like, it's still hard for a right-handed hitter to get that many home runs out of the ballpark. And Tyler O'Neill has plenty of talent, but there's a reason he was cheaper than Santander, right? There's a reason for that. So, yeah, I was so excited for the Orioles this offseason. I thought that they could really make some big splashes. I thought they could be the team to trade for Crochet. And Mike Elias has just been operating like a scared little puppy. And then what's further pissing me off is I start ripping these moves on Twitter, and Orioles fans are like, no, Charlie Morton is actually a great addition.
Stockholm syndrome.
Sagano is actually could be very good. And I'm like, what are you people talking about? Shouldn't we be going after Mike Elias right now? Shouldn't we be mad at him instead of just like, oh no, I trust the process? Like, what is the process so far even given you guys? Good regular seasons, bounced early every playoff run? Then what? So I'm extremely upset, and I'm going to bet the Orioles to miss the playoffs.
They're going to squander. They have a chance to squander a very talented young core that will get very expensive and probably won't be able to be retained across the board. And that's why it's like you have a cheap, star powered offense. Address it and be aggressive and push the chips forward. And it's just not the way Mike Elias operates. I think that's become very clear. It seems like he is very, very cautious. And I think he should be on fraud watch going into this year for sure. Cause I'm not a big Sagano guy either. And I don't know how that stuff's going to play. But the other answer for me, and I hope I'm wrong on this front, because I still think, as Jack mentioned, they have plenty of talent, is the Padres though, just because I do wonder, how morale is there as well too. I saw, Manny Machado talking about like, yeah, of course we're upset that we didn't make any additions. And, I'm not saying that guys are just gonna, show up and not try. Of course they're gonna try to compete, and they know that they look around the clubhouse, there's still a lot of star power around them. But Luis Arias has been in trade talks all off season, right? Like that's been something he's been dealing with. Dylan Cease, the same story. Michael King, the same story. And even if they're not moved, like I don't know, it's just kind of weird. You go into this spring training, you're not even sure who's going to still be there, if they are going to be there, if they were even going to be there by the time you got there. I think there's just this, and it's unfortunate because I think that the passing of Peter Sadler obviously impacted this big time as well. But I feel like there's just weird energy around the Padres right now, and it's got to be seeping through internally in terms of the financial challenges, the trade rumors consistently, and just where they're at. The team has the talent to absolutely get back to the playoffs, and I think the bullpen is going to be huge for them because they have plenty of talent throughout there. But as we talked about, like if Yu Darvish goes down, you're looking at a rotation here where it's Cease King, and then you're trying to fill it out. And I think there's a case to be made that converting one of their relievers into a starter, whether it's often injured Morahone or Brian Hoeing, back to the rotation, could be one of their better options. That's when it's pretty thin. And then offensively, like we're still looking at a situation where, I mean, based on roster resource, you got Tirso Ornella starting in a corner, who I don't hate, but like we're talking about a playoff team, and Eggy Rosario potentially starting. Like we probably need a little bit more, firepower there.
And Arm, just to further your point, you were talking about the Magic there for a little bit. Like they are losing Jurickson Profar from last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that if they had re-signed Jurickson Profar that they can run it back. But Jurickson Profar was the best hitter in Major League Baseball last year when it came to high leverage. And the Padres were 10-2 in extra inning games. They had a magic about them, right? The year before that, they were 2-12 in extra inning games, and they went 82-80. Like sometimes that little bit of magic, that stuff in the clubhouse matters. Ask Mets fans with Jose Iglesias. Like that shit matters. And losing a guy like Profar, not only in that clubhouse, but the magic he brought with the bat last year is sometimes just a flash in the pan. So now you lose that guy, and
Ha-Seong Kim's no slouch either.
Exactly.
That's the thing. I was going to say they also lost their shortstop. Like, that's kind of important.
And now we're looking at a team without a lot of magic, right? Like Fernando Tatis Jr., Manny Machado, Xander Bogaerts, these guys are all good players, but like, is there a magic to them?
I don't think that you can project magic in February.
I'm doing it.
I think that's impossible to project magic in February. Like,
Speak for yourself.
Do you think anybody sat here on February 6, 2024 and said, you know what? Jose Iglesias is going to be huge for some.
That was me. Yeah. No, that was me. No, you're
Peter
totally
even predicted
right.
the
totally
Billboard top hit.
Yeah.
I was
Have you heard of this Sabrina Carpenter? She's going to be on a roll here in like a year.
No, I just wanted to point to like the Padres were so much fun because the 2023 Padres, like they were such a bore. They were such a bore. They had great players, but it just felt when they were up in the game, they'd lay down, they might close it out, but they lost some leads. And then when they were down in the game, it felt like the game was over. Like all I had to watch was the first 5 innings of a Padres game to see where the game was going to go. And then you're also taking out Tanner Scott from that bullpen on top of it, who's like an incredibly elite reliever. I know he wasn't on the team the entire time, but for that stretch, he was unhittable. So it's like, and then you're taking away Blake Snell, you're taking away some bats. It's just like, yeah, I agree with you, Arm. They would be my team in the National League to miss the playoffs.
Yeah. No, we are aligned on both of those. So Baltimore and San Diego. Yeah, those are the two that I had written down.
Okay.
We got 2 more questions. Let's go to Giovanni P2 on Instagram. Who is the prospect that no one is talking about that could make a serious impact at the MLB level? I think Aram just mentioned Tirso or Nelas, and like that is where my mind went immediately. And I went for 25. I'm not talking about a guy that like,
Yeah.
oh, he's underrated, but he's killing in high A, and he could be awesome in 2027. I went 2025. Who could be a big piece of the major league level that like really nobody knows of? The two names that came to my mind immediately were Tirso Ornelas in San Diego, and then Chase Mydroth, who was just acquired in the Garrett
Mhm.
Crochet deal. Mydroth can play every single day for the White Sox, and he may be by OPS plus, considering how much he walks, he may be their best player by OPS plus on that
That's
team.
wild.
Yeah, I know I use Tirso as an example of like, oh, well, you don't know what's going on out there. But I do like him. I think it's just we're
Yeah.
talking about a playoff team that goes from Profar with a 130 WRC plus to a
Tirso
rookie.
Ornelas. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but Tirso, dude, like that guy can hit, and I know you watched him all the way back in Fort Wayne, and I know you liked him then. But contact rates wise, exit velocity wise, like that's a guy that no one's really paying attention to, but. I mean, he mashed last year.
Yeah.
He's put together solid numbers consistently. And like, I do think this is a guy that could hit 20 to 25 home runs if he makes the transition that, you want to see and seems to be ready to go, especially with the combination of EVs and feel to hit. I think he hit 20 something this past year. And then he's playing right now in the Winter League and just absolutely mashing out there too, I think in Mexico. So he just hasn't stopped hitting. I do think that's a guy that the Padres actually do have faith, and it's not just because of by default. I love the Mydroth shout, but I was thinking about impact, and I'm like, so he's gonna get them from 50 or 40 wins to 44.
No.
But I do think he's gonna be one of the better young hitters in the game if he gets an early opportunity.
Four-win guy, Chase my
Yeah.
job.
Like, I wonder if it should count that way if you're that
Right.
bad as a team.
Yeah.
It's like, no, we plugged in Mydroth for a guy that was -2 at 4
Yeah.
before that. So, I think people are talking about him, but Emmanuel Rodriguez, I think, deserves a shout because he only played 30 something games last year as he dealt with a thumb issue. But this is a guy that kind of similar to the DeLauder conversation. I just think he's so close to ready, if not ready, with the approach and the power, and he can really play a good center field that the Twins might just say, you know what, fuck it, dude. Like, just come up here and let's see if you can stay healthy with our big league staff. Well, I don't know, but like, let's see if you can stay healthy up here. And I do think that's a guy that can play above average defense and center, walk at a ridiculously high clip, and he's got plus raw power. A lower end shout, but a guy that like on a team that needs any bat that can kind of break through and has the pitching to make some noise is the Pirates. And I think Nick York, I'm standing on this one. Like,
Yeah.
I think York's going to have a good year, man. He can play all over the diamond. I think every tool of his has been underrated. He's faster than he gets credit for. He has a better arm than he gets credit for. He can move all over the diamond more than he gets credit for. He hits the ball harder than he gets credit for. I think he's going to be a super utility type or just end up hitting his way into playing regularly in a certain spot. But he's going to be, I think, 10 to 15 home runs, a shitload of doubles, decent OBP, swipe some bags, and for the Pirates, like they need those guys.
Yeah. And same line of thinking. Endy Rodriguez is going to be such a welcome sight in that lineup. Like I'm
Yeah.
excited to see Endy back in that lineup, and he's spelling Bart instead of Yasmani Grandal. There is one more name. Texas has started their bullpen from scratch. I'm looking at their depth chart right now, and you could argue that I think their 6 leverage arms at this point have all been acquired in the last 2 to 3 months. Chris Martin, Robert Garcia, Jacob Webb, Sean Armstrong, Hobie Miller, Jesse Chavez. Chris Martin is probably the closer of that group, but enter Emiliano Teodo. And Aram, I know we've talked about that. Like, if they need a closer and they're willing to move Teodo off of the starter
They
thing,
should.
he could be the closer for the Texas Rangers, and they could be contending in that division with the guy that has yet to make his debut.
And I think they should. Like, and it's not because there's something specifically like wrong with him in terms of, oh, he definitely can't start. I do think the Arsenal points towards the bullpen anyways, but you can always move him back to the rotation. I just think that's a guy that can help your team tomorrow
Yeah.
out of the bullpen and really make an impact. Then you can continue to develop him that way as well. Another very boring name, but I legitimately think he could, if they allow him. We just talked about him on the call up, like could pitch to 190 innings at like a 3.9 is Michael McGreevy. And I like it's a different kind of impact, but like we talk about how hard it is to pitch a lot of innings. McGreevy has been the innings eater in the minor leagues. I love the adjustment stuff wise, where he added a cutter. He's getting more depth on the sinker, which allowed him to get a lot more ground balls. The four seamer's playing better. He adjusted his slider to be more of a sweeper. I think those all played into him having the success that he had at the big league level and overall last year. And again, it's not like a star impact, but if you get a guy that's pitching to a 3.9 to a 4.1 or 4.1 and giving you 180 innings, especially with how banged up those older guys have been in that rotation, that's a pretty significant impact from a rookie. And I absolutely think McGreevy can be that.
So you guys really got in your bag for this one for a lot of the deep cuts. I wrote down two names that I'm surprised that you guys didn't even mention, like Matt Shaw with the Chicago Cubs.
Well, they said nobody talking about.
Oh, nobody talked about that. I just didn't even read the question, so that's completely on me. So I wrote down Matt Shaw of the Chicago Cubs and Andrew Painter of the Phillies, and I was like, are we not? Like, what are we doing here?
That was my fatal flaw in standardized tests. I think I could have been an Ivy Leaguer if I just read the question, and I didn't do that.
My bad, Giovanni P2 on Instagram. I just didn't even read the question. I wrote down really Andrew Painter and Matt Shaw, and I was like, are they just going to leave these guys for me?
Yeah, that brings
we wanted to make you look good on the prospect front.
Yeah. There have been a couple mailbag questions where Peter has just been like, yeah, I misinterpreted this entirely.
Completely wrong. I've just been like, wait, I did National League, like when it said clearly American League or some sort of prospects.
My favorite one is somebody wanted us to put together like an all underrated team or something. And, that was just like all underrated team. I was like, assuming active players. And you were like, yeah, Stan Musial, like he should get a lot more credit. I was like, yeah, no doubt, dude.
That did happen. I can confirm that happened. Yeah. I'm not the best reader, just a ball knower,
It's
not really wordsmith either. But
We've got one more question here, and this is a fun one, Super Bowl related. RCat5 on Instagram asks, because it's Super Bowl week, try and make a football team with active MLB guys. Parentheses, probably don't have to do linemen. Peter sent us the positional breakdown: quarterback, running back, two wideouts, tight end, safety, corner, linebacker, edge rusher, D tackle.
Perfect.
We can just run through them. I've got my team ready to go. Peter, you got yours?
Let's go position by position and see who we all have. All right. Works. So at quarterback, I felt like a simp loser fanboy, but like, is Shohei Ohtani not the greatest choice for quarterback? I mean, the guy could throw 100 miles an hour off the mound. He's fast as shit. And he's clearly smart, but I wanted to go a different route for my quarterback besides taking the obvious choice. Give me Brenton Doyle. Combination of speed with arm talent. He's pulling down 103 from the outfield while being one of the tops in sprint speed. Clearly one of the best defenders in baseball. He'd make for a great safety. But at quarterback, I want that arm and I want that speed. I want that dual threat ability.
Jack, who you got for QB?
Skeens. He throws a football before every start already. So I'm doing that. And I also want 6'6", 235. I feel like if he does need to tuck and run, it's going to be really hard to bring him down. But I trust the arm talent big time. I would have gone Bubba, but Bubba's not a big leaguer right now.
So I was going to ask, so Tim Tawa was added to the 40-man roster and is expected to be on the active roster for the
doesn't count. We can't.
Give me Brock Jones at safety.
Yeah, we can't just get all of the guys who also played football in college or something like that. Like we need like legit MLB players.
Well, Tim Tawa is going to be an MLB player this year.
He's going to be an MLB player
on the opening day roster. He will be on the opening day roster.
All right, so fine. Take Tim Tawa.
So Tim Tawa, he didn't play in college, but he's the all-time passing leader for the state of Oregon. 11,357 yards, 143 touchdowns, which is crazy. His coach, Chris Miller, former NFL quarterback, called him the best quarterback in Oregon history. He won the Gatorade Player of the Year 3 times.
Why didn't he play college football?
I don't know. He was a good baseball player at Stanford.
A quarterback from Oregon, Eric Dungy, Cuse, stand up.
Stand up.
So Tawa was like just because he's gonna be on the active roster. I thought
such a dorky pick, dude.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Tim Tawa, great pull. All right, should we go running back?
Yeah,
I want Bobby Wood Jr.
Yeah, that's great pick.
Top sprint speed in Major League Baseball from last year, and he's got some size to him. He's not one of these little guys who will just You could swap him out in the outfield for some extra defense or as a pinch runner or anything like that. No, this is Bobby Witt Jr., fastest guy in baseball, standing at 6'1", 200. We'll take that. Bobby Witt Jr., my running back.
Okay, so I want my guy to survive between the tackles.
Mm.
6 foot 225, 98th percentile in sprint speed. Wyatt Langford was a running back created in a lab.
I
Give me
I had him in
Langford.
another position, actually.
I have him at another position as well. I'm fine with him a
there we
running
go.
back. I mean, we got to look at these football builds, and we got to try our
He
best.
has a football build. I feel like that dude could take 20 to 25 hits a game and be fine.
Arm, who's your running back?
So I went with Justin Twine, former Marlin second. Now,
Yeah, great.
running back wise, I was trying to think if I want like a skinny, quick, shifty guy or a bigger dude that can take hits. But I ended up settling on Bobby Witt Jr. as well because you have like a built dude who also is one of the fastest, if not the fastest, in Major League Baseball. I just think it's hard to go any other route than that. But another one that I was thinking, you could also put him in another position, but Jarren Duran. Jarren Duran is one of the fastest players in baseball, and I don't have to sell you on the physicality there. So I like him just being able to run between the tackles, but also can get around the edge on the outside. So to be different, I'll say Jarren Duran.
I was
Okay.
trying to find MLB's version of Maurice Jones-Drew, and I couldn't really. Think.
MLB's
Maybe
version-
Altuve. Like Altuve could slip through.
Yeah, but Altuve has to get 100
He's gonna
pounds.
die.
Yes. Like Maurice Jones-Drew, I think he was like 5'8", 230, all muscle, speed. We just don't have
I
guys
think
built
Kirk
like that
doesn't
in
move
baseball.
like that. Alejandro
Yeah.
Kirk does not move like that,
Be a
unfortunately.
great center if we're talking linemen. That's who maybe you want at center. Wide receivers, I thought it was easy.
I thought so.
I want the cruises on both ends. I want
Okay.
Ellie. I want Ellie going deep, and I want O'Neal Cruz running a post. We're good.
I hear you. I wanted a guy that could go up and get it. So O'Neal Cruz was the guy that I had in there. But I thought, okay, do I go O'Neal and Ellie? I want a slot guy.
Mm,
Give me Corbin Carroll in the slot.
I was thinking him or PCA.
He's not even the best slot receiver on his team.
Corbin Carroll,
Marte?
Alec Thomas would be the one.
Alec Thomas would be the one.
Alec Thomas would be the one.
Get a football offer from
Marte with
TCU.
that size
Was going to
Ketel
play
Marte?
wide out at TCU.
Okay. I think I'd rather have Ketel Marte at my slot than Alec Thomas.
No, I'd rather have Corbin Carroll because he's just like I'm just thinking like you do the little pop pass, you do the touch pass, like you send him in motion. He's beating everybody to the edge. He's off to the races.
I like that. Arm, who are your wide receivers?
I went Ellie because like just running a straight line and I'm gonna have Tim Tawa get that thing up in the air to you, and we're
Who's
gonna
the
get some
Marlins kid
touchdowns
playing
there.
running back?
Sorry.
Who's the Marlins kid playing running back?
No. Oh, Justin Twine, former
Justin Twine.
second round pick, did not pan out as a baseball player, but he was a great running back. But it doesn't count. Never made it to the show. The other wide receiver, does it count because he has MLB time, but he's on the AAA roster? The obvious answer would be Jordan Adams.
Oh,
But-
I get it. That counts.
He was ranked ahead of Jamar Chase.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like on 247, he's a 5-star receiver, but he was up at the big leagues last year, back and forth guy. So I know that's a little bit of a cop out answer.
Can we still do Monte Harrison?
No, he's not active anymore. Can't do him. I'm trying to think if there was because that's who I had was Jordan Adams, but
I like that.
Pete Crow Armstrong with the way he can run down. I mean, he'd have to probably be slot, and could get hit pretty hard there. But the way he runs down balls and how quick and shifty he is, I think that's another good answer. And it's not like he's 5'9", like he's sneaky. I actually don't know what the exact height weight is, but he's definitely not a
I think he's
small
6
guy.
foot.
I think you guys are overthinking the wide receiver position.
6'1".
Would you rather have two Calvin Johnsons or a Calvin Johnson and a Wes Welker? I'll take two Calvin Johnsons. Like I'll have Ellie De La Cruz my Calvin Johnson with O'Neal Cruz my Randy Moss, and we'll just go get it.
So
Like I'll take more talent rather than but maybe he's shifty.
No way
I'll take
no
Randy
way
Moss.
O'Neal Cruz is cutting.
Yeah,
There's no way
yeah,
he's like
no,
cutting.
I was thinking send O'Neal Cruz on goes, and then Corbin Carroll can do all my fancy stuff in the middle.
I think Ellie could do some fancy stuff in the middle while O'Neal Cruz just send him out.
I'm not sure, man.
Tight end, easy.
It's so easy.
I mean, we should all around the board. We'll say it on 3. 3, 2, 1. Aaron Judge.
Aaron Judge.
Aaron Judge.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, he's the perfect tight end. You'd think
Yeah.
Stanton, but he can't run at
Stanton,
all.
young Stanton, without a doubt.
Definitely.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
But
currently,
Judge.
Aaron Judge, 6'7", 280. I think he could legit play some tight end and like
I
be
think so.
totally fine right now. I think of all the players on this list, honestly, Langford.
Yeah.
I think Langford could legit play. I think Judge could actually be a good tight end in the NFL.
Yeah.
All right, let's
I get it.
defense.
Yeah.
So safety and corner, we want long guys, we want fast guys who can cover a lot of ground.
Yeah.
I want the gazelle at my safety position. I want Byron Buxton coming down the pipe and just laying people out and just his legs back there in center field.
Yeah, that one play will be awesome.
Yeah, it will be. It will be awesome. Give me Byron Buxton at my safety.
Okay. Buxton is 6'2", 190. Guy that I chose is 6'3", 230 to play safety. And he's one of the fastest guys in baseball. Julio Rodriguez would be a heck of a safety.
Crazy good safety. I was thinking him too.
I got Langford at safety.
Mm.
I want him. He's fast, but
Yeah.
also I want him laying dudes out. So that's where I was between linebacker and safety. I was like, I like him better at safety. So I went Wyatt Langford at safety.
Got you.
At cornerback, I went with the guy who I think has the quickest feet. Jacob Young, Washington Nationals. I think he's got quick feet. That guy's speeding around like a roadrunner out there. You tell me you couldn't
DeJean,
lock.
Riley Moss.
You tell me you couldn't
Jacob
lock down Justin Jefferson in a pinch on one play. I think he's locking him down. Give me Jacob Young.
Okay.
All right.
Where'd you go?
With corner. That's where I ultimately settled with Pete Armstrong. The way that he tracks baseballs, and you talk about the feet and everything, like I think he would be the ball hawk, like that could just make a play on the ball every single time, beat the receiver sometimes with the ball. His quickness, the shiftiness in general. PCA, I think, would be a lockdown corner.
Would he get beat over the top though? I'm worried about his size. Jacob Young, sneaky 5'11".
6'1" PCA.
Oh, he's taller than Jacob Young.
Corner, I didn't have a good answer. So I will side with PCA just because like he goes after balls with reckless abandon in baseball. Like I figure nothing is going to get in his way pursuing a ball in the air. Might be a lot of PI, but that's okay. I'm fine with it.
I swore PCA was 5'9". That's what I put in my head. He's 6'1". Never mind.
He moves
I
like
think
he's
PCA's
5'9".
the answer.
Yeah.
Quick feet.
Linebacker, like Trout still looks like a linebacker. I know he's not going to survive, but like Mike Trout's my linebacker.
Wyatt Langford was my linebacker.
Yeah,
I mean, we all just put Langford in different positions. Arm, who's your linebacker?
I like my linebackers fast. He might be a little undersized, but Tyron Blanco would be the fastest linebacker like ever.
Does he have the frame to hold up?
No, I don't think so. So I'm actually going to flip-flop edge rusher and linebacker here. Linebacker, I'm going Stone Garrett.
Oh, yeah.
Good one.
Yes.
Run stopping linebacker, absolutely just run dudes over. I love the Stone Garrett linebacker position right there.
This is where I go with Astros 15th round pick from a year ago, Bryce Betcher, who is delaying a report to spring training to play another year of linebacker at Oregon. He was the second highest graded linebacker in America by Pro Football Focus, and he was the 15th round pick of the Astros.
He's making a good decision to stay back and play football.
Yeah, I think so.
For my edge rusher, this is where I went with Trout. Because I was like, Trout's a little bit bigger than he used to be. I think he went from linebacker to edge rusher. I mean, he's 6'2". I think he's like 235. He's still got the speed, though. But, yeah, looking at my roster, like, we got to stay healthy. I mean, I got Buxton out there. I got Trout out there. Like, you know, we're super talented. But we got to stay healthy on the field.
I'm thinking about the menace of Yordan Alvarez coming off the edge. I want him as my edge guy.
Wasn't fast enough, but I thought about it.
Yeah.
I know he's not fast enough, but I'm like, you are so intimidating physically. Where am I going to put you? And the answer was edge.
J.J. Watt was not that fast, and he was racking up sacks like nobody's business. But again, he's an interior defensive lineman.
Yeah.
I got Will Benson coming off the edge.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Will Benson, dude, like he's 6'5", 230, and was the 87th percentile in sprint speed. He actually might be able to play NFL edge rusher, I think, if he had the time to build up there. But just freak athlete and like also fiery guy, plays angry, which I love out of an edge rusher. So I'll go Benson.
For defensive tackle, I just imagine myself as the center, and before I snap the ball, looking up to who's going to be the nose guard. And I thought the scariest eyes to look into when you combine with the sheer mass of the player, Felix Bautista. I do not want to run into that brick wall of a man. 6'8", 280. No, thank you. So
Yeah.
Felix Bautista will be my defensive tackle.
I love that shout. I'm just thinking I want somebody nicknamed the Big Bear in the middle of my defensive line. Ozuna.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Yeah. That's another good one.
I had Alec Manoa up the middle, a little bit worried about the motor. Hoping he can stay, locked in. But, what's the measurables? Is he 285?
He's not gonna rush the passer, but he's gonna be good run blocker.
Yeah.
Like he's gonna stay back and he's gonna clog some lanes for sure.
He might need to take some third downs off or first downs off.
Manoa's
But
6'6", 285. Yeah.
the other one is Joel Kunel.
Kunal. Yeah, Joel Kunal.
6'5", 290. Just
Really?
plug up the hole up the middle.
Yeah.
Whoa. All right, so that's the
Pause.
squad.
Yeah.
So let's go over my team. So at quarterback, I got Shohei. Running back, I got Bobby Wood Jr. My wideouts are Ellie and O'Neal Cruz. Tight end, Aaron Judge. Safety, Byron Buxton. Corner, Jacob Young. But since Brenton Doyle, even though Shohei Ohtani can pitch and hit, I'm going to have Brenton Doyle play both ways. He's going to be my backup quarterback and my backup corner.
Okay.
And then at linebacker, Wyatt Langford, edge rusher, Mike Trout, D tackle, Felix Bautista. I'm beating you guys.
Okay, I've got Skeens at quarterback, Langford as my running back, O'Neal Cruz and Corbin Carroll as my wideouts, Judge as my tight end, Julio Rodriguez is the best safety in Major League Baseball. I've got PCA as my corner, Trout as my linebacker, Jordan as my slow edge, and then Marcelo Zuna as my defensive tackle.
All right. I got Tim Towell at Q, best quarterback in Oregon history. Jaron Duran at running back, Ellie De La Cruz at receiver, Jordan Adams at receiver, better than Jamar Chase. Tight end is Aaron Judge, safety Wyatt Langford, corner PCA, linebacker Stone Garrett, edge rusher Will Benson, D tackle Alec Manoa, and punter Curtis Mead, because Australians seem to just be great punters.
Sure.
So give me Curtis Mead as well.
Adley Rutschman is my kicker. He was on kickoff duty at
that is a
Oregon
good
State.
pull.
Didn't even think about kicker. That's a great one.
Yep. I have a last word real quick for you. How far have we strayed from the good old days when it comes to the NBA All-Star Celebrity Game?
I saw that list. That is an abomination.
It's horrible, man. Like I'm not intrigued by this whatsoever. We used to have people that worked in Washington. We used to have Justin Bieber balling.
Yeah, Justin Bieber was playing.
Now Kai Cenat again? I see way too much of that guy. What do you do? I understand that we are kind of influencers at our core, but what does he do? He just kind of sits there and hangs out? Is that what the Kai Cenat thing is?
But to be fair to Kai Cenat, hilarious, and he makes so much money, and his streams get so many viewers. But it's not about Kai Cenat. It's about the 20 names that they gave us, and I know 3 of them.
Who is AP Dillon with an H?
I also can't fucking escape Shabuzi. And I have nothing against the guy, but that's why I replied to you. I'm like, he's got to be running out of gas. This has had to be the most exhausting year of his life.
Yeah.
He's everywhere.
Yeah, dude. Other guy that's everywhere.
I hate the song now too.
Drewski's everywhere, and Drewski's funny, but
him wearing the Mike Soroka jersey is the floor. I want to know the context of that.
But at least again, those guys we know of.
Yeah, those guys are
there
good.
are still so many names that I didn't.
Tucker
what if we're just
Halpern?
old heads now? I got called Unk for the first time a few weeks ago, and maybe those are people we just should know and would know if we were young.
Unk.
That one actually fucked me up for a few weeks. Someone responded. It was on my personal Instagram too. It was one of the listeners of the show on my personal Instagram.
No way.
Calling me Unk.
That's so sad. How long did you shut down for emotionally?
I'm still booting back up, dude. Honestly.
Got it. Yeah, I'm going on about 26 years of that. So
yeah.
So I think that'll do it for this episode of the Just Baseball Show. And again, the best way to support, if you enjoyed the mailbag, rate and review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, 5 stars, or comment, subscribe on YouTube. And if you do have a couple dollars to spare, go get yourself some Just Baseball merch. I'm rocking the hat. I'm rocking the long sleeve tee. Jack is rocking the hat. Arm's rocking the t-shirt. Go check them all out on our merch store. We also have these awesome hoodies. Again, World Series logos inspired. They're great. Go check them out in our merch store. And just for anybody else listening, if you want to make the Super Bowl a fun, enjoyable experience betting wise, again, using code JustBaseball on BetMGM gets you that first bet offer. So if you do lose your first wager, you'll get it all back in bonus bets. Anything else before we say goodbye?
No, just excited. I was early. Now I'll just say it again. Excited for social media today. That's all.
Yeah, that'll be fine.
All right, for
All right.
Jack McMullen, Arm Layden, I'm Peter Apple. With that, thank you, everybody.